K-dramas are notorious for like throwing like a shaggy wig on somebody and then that being like the most hideous person anyone has ever seen, or like throwing 3 freckles on a face and then that person is like the most atrocious thing you've ever put your eyes on. Hello, welcome to Sarah's Korean Corner, where I dive into all things related to Korean culture, from K-pop to K-dramas, skincare, food, language. If those sound like things that you're interested in, please subscribe. Today, we are looking at episode 5 of Itaewon class. Lots of very exciting things happened in this episode, so let's get right into it. When the episode starts, we see that Gun-seo and Yi-Seo both are trying to get a job at Danbam, and they are successful. So Gun-seo is hired as a part-time server, and Yi-Seo is hired as a manager. We then cut to the chairman, who is worried about a hostile takeover by one of his employees who's actually proven herself to be very competent and very loyal, but it seems that there's kind of something going on underneath her facade because she has a lot of shares in the company, and so he's starting to worry that she's getting ready to make a move that he isn't going to be able to stave off. So that's sort of an interesting thing to watch, because we saw her in a previous episode kind of dressing down some of his employees for even considering her as his successor. So something to keep an eye out on. We then move back to Danbam Pub, so it's a little bit of kind of a jumping back and forth between the chairman's operations and this sort of new fledgling pub's operations. So it's kind of an interesting juxtaposition, but they are revamping the place. So opening night is fast approaching, their suspension is almost at an end, and so we see them kind of tidying everything and decorating and getting everything ready. The night before everything opens, we see Saeroyi having a drink with his dad. He pours a glass for his dad and kind of lets it sit there while he has this drink and sort of remembers his dad's dream that he's getting ready to realize. So it's very sweet. We see the chairman talking to Gunan, and the chairman basically is telling him, like, what is your value? Like, you're my son, that's something, I guess, except not really to me, but you don't add any value around here, and you're not really adding any value to the family. So if you're not going to do anything worthwhile, the least you could do is get married into this other food family that I've arranged, and that will at least sort of build up like both families, because, you know, we're sort of dynasties colliding. But I need you to do something, because all you do is cause trouble, you make scenes, you tank our sales, you do all this stuff that's negative. This is like the one positive thing that you can do to actually like impact the family. And Gunan is like, he is not into it. Chairman's assistant is like, you know that he likes Soo Ah, right? And the chairman is like, what? Which, I mean, of course, like, why would he be paying any attention to his loser son's love life? So not surprising. But it's kind of funny that the look on his face is like, oh, that could work too. So it's opening night at Danbam right before they are getting ready to let everybody in, and it's really cute because Yi-Seo has everybody sort of assemble around this table, and they do like this big cheer, and she's trying to unite everybody and get them super pumped for this opening night that they've been working really hard for. And it's just like very sweet because they've got this kind of like ragtag of people, right? It's people that generally are kind of like looked down upon. I just thought it was kind of sweet for a kid. You know, she's 20, but they all talk about her like she's basically like a toddler. But it's nice that have her have that vision of like, we need to all be in this together in order to make this work. So opening night happens. It is a huge success. Lots of hype around Danbam. Lots of people show up. They're really excited. They've made more money opening night than they've made the whole time they were open before the suspension. And so everybody's feeling really great. And she says, well, this is, I mean, it's an opening and like, it's whatever, but we need to do way more if we actually want to be sustainable. And everyone's kind of like, huh? So it was again, like, here's this kid, right? So they keep talking about her like she's this like insignificant like child who like couldn't possibly understand how anything works, and she's like schooling everybody in like how marketing works, how business works in the 21st century. So just like a very cool thing to see, because people often discount younger generations, myself included, as somebody who is older. But they really, you know, lots of people are doing really great things, tech-wise, social media-wise, and so it's sort of nice to see this drama call that out, you know, like, you can have skills beyond just going to school and doing like sort of traditional jobs. So very cool. We cut to the chairman and Soo Ah. We cut to them taking a walk, and the chairman sort of says to her, it turns out my son likes you. And she's just like, and the chairman is like, yeah, I figured he didn't, yeah, he's an idiot, so fair. But if, you know, you wanted to marry him, or I would not, I would be okay with it. You can see her little deceitful mind, like trying to do all these calculations of like how she can somehow like get something out of this. She's so despicable as a character. Like I can't even, generally speaking, K-dramas have redemption arcs for their characters, especially the ones that you hate the most. So something is coming. I don't know what it is, but I can already feel within myself that I don't care. I don't care what the redemption arc is because I don't like her. She seems awful in every possible way. Totally self-interested, completely selfish. She treats Saeroyi terribly for someone that is genuinely like kind-hearted and sweet and tenacious. And so I don't even care. Maybe the best thing that could happen to her is like she ends up actually marrying Gunhan. Because I think she'd be miserable, and frankly, I'm here for it. It's post workday. We see our squad, our Danbam squad, and they're waiting for the bus, which is interesting because in K-dramas, like everybody's taking the bus, which I think is kind of great because you don't see a lot of people taking the bus in like American shows, even though tons of people actually take public transit. Anyway, they're waiting on the bus, and Gun-seo is like, oh, I don't know, what are we gonna do? Oh, I'm so bored. Blah. Like, how are you bored after a full day of work? They decide to go clubbing. Sung-kwan, who is the quote-unquote ugly guy at Danbam, which, ugly how? Ugly where? This man is gorgeous. K-dramas are notorious for like throwing like a shaggy wig on somebody and then that being like the most hideous person anyone has ever seen, or like throwing 3 freckles on a face and then that person is like the most atrocious thing you've ever put your eyes on. He's never been to a club because he's ugly. You see where this is going. He's intrigued because he's heard that you can go to a club and basically like assault people, which is kind of what it sounds like he's saying. Like, oh, can I just like go and like grind and twerk up on people? First of all, no, you cannot. No, you cannot. Second of all, Yi-Seo, much nicer than I would have been in that situation. They make a lot of faces, right? So Gun-seo and her are kind of like, what kind of pervert are we dealing with here? But she's like, you know what? You don't understand because, you know, you've never been to a club, so let me just like educate you. We have one of the funniest scenes of this episode where she basically is simulating how to hit on a girl at a club with Gun-seo being her target. And he's, of course, in love with her. So, like, it's super awkward because she's, like, touching him and, like, dancing with and on him. And he's kind of like, ah, you know, having all the feelings, but, like, not opening his mouth because it's too early in the season for all of that. And so they sort of teach Sung-kwan, like, okay, so you, like, go up to a girl and you kind of, like, put your hands, like, next to her head so that she sees that there's a person there. And you kind of dance with her, but don't touch her. And then eventually she'll see the hands in her periphery and she'll turn around. And then if she gives you a smile, because you're smiling at her like an idiot, if she gives you a smile, you're good. And then you can spend the whole rest of the night with her and take her to your table and all this other stuff. If, however, she gives you stank face, you have no shot and you need to move on to like your next target. Now, this feels very pickup artisty to me. So I was kind of side-eyeing Yi-Seo a little bit because I'm like, look, the man has never been to a club. He doesn't even seem like he's ever actually talked to a woman, like romantically. And you're like giving him all these tips to basically like try to pick up someone, but like, why? They get to the club and he decides to put these things into practice. It's just as cringy as you might expect it to be. It's actually pretty funny, but also I was just like, man, this is a flashback to like my own clubbing days back in the day. The girl that he decides is gonna be like his one and only, he gets up on her, hands across her face, well, not across her face, but basically like hands like besides her head, in her periphery, and he's kind of trying to do something. dancing. And then eventually she does see the hands and she turns and then she's like, what are you doing? And he's like, what do you mean? I'm trying to like, you know, and she's like, no, idiot, don't you recognize me? Like, what are you doing? And he's like, huh? And then you can see Gun-seo is like, huh? And then all of a sudden it dawns on like the three of them. So Yi-Seo, Gun-seo, and Sung-kwan. That's HyunYi, the male cook from Danbam. Only she's at the club as a woman. So, ladies and gentlemen, folks, people, fam, we have, I think, our first transgender character. So I was actually pretty surprised. I wasn't quite sure what was happening because it was kind of clunky the way that they did it. But as they have a conversation, you sort of realize like, oh, like she's trans. Got it. But then something really unfortunate happens, which is that Yi-Seo, who's supposed to be like the most like open-minded like rebel of like all of creation, turns out to be a transphobe. So I'm watching the episode and I'm like, oh, but I love your character, but like, no. So Sung-kwan also is sort of like shocked because he's never actually tried to hit on somebody before, and it turns out he's hit on like what he thinks is his male male coworker, right? HyunYi is basically like, oh, you know, like I'm transgender. I like to come to this club because it has like a good atmosphere. You know, I don't know, is there anything else? Like I haven't really lied or been hiding it. Like I just don't dress that way at work because I'm at work. Gun-seo is like kind of the only one that's like trying to actually like make the situation like less awkward. But the other two are just like so unable to like comprehend and deal. And Yi-Seo is like so like aggressively like rude that HyunYi is just like, all right, I'm making y'all uncomfortable. I'm gonna go. Gun-seo is like, oh, Hyung, oh, Ani, and then he realizes he doesn't know like which terms to use because he's not sure like which pronouns he's supposed to be using to like refer to HyunYi at this point. So that's kind of like the end of the club scene. So it's super awkward. And I was very disappointed in basically all three of them, but Gun-seo least of all, because he at least attempted some kind of understanding. But the other two, I was like, I guess I'm just rooting for Saeroyi at this point. The next day, it gets worse because Yi-Seo, who, to be fair, has been complaining about HyunYi's cooking since like day one, right? She's been side-eyeing her and doing all kinds of other weird stuff. But it's like ratcheted up a level. So now it's like we have to fire this person because they can't cook. Saeroyi is like, so to me, yes, there is this sense that we want the restaurant to be better, and so we need a better cook. But it really felt very transphobic and very gross. And so I was not happy with like how all of that went down, especially the looks that she was giving HyunYi, just the attitude and the entitlement that like whatever she says goes. So like I was just saying that like it's great that they were giving her this opportunity to sort of be a leader, and she took the opportunity and basically like threw it in the garbage by being like a hateful bigot. We have this interesting problem now because Saeroyi has hired her as the manager. As the manager, she has decided that HyunYi is a liability, right? Can't cook and also is trans, and so if people find out, that's going to be bad for business. And so she just says, you have to fire this person. And Saeroyi is like, I'm not going to do that. She is my person, just like the rest of y'all are my people. I don't abandon people because of stuff like that. We're all outcasts in some way, so we need to stick together. And so he ends up giving HyunYi 2 months of salary and basically says to her, can you be a better cook? Because we can't survive if you continue cooking the way that you're cooking, because you suck. But I believe in you, and I want us to grow this business together, and so I'm gonna trust that you like working here enough that you're gonna get your shit together. Everybody around the table is like, huh. HyunYi promises to work her ass off to become a better cook. And And that's that. And Yi-Seo has like a tantrum and is like, oh, well, there's nothing else I can say, and kind of like stomps off. And I'm like, bitch, listen. People throw tantrums when they don't get their way. But I was very like, this whole episode, I was just kind of like, I have misjudged this character and I don't know how to feel about this if I have to go through like another 11 episodes with her acting like this, because that's not gonna work. We then see over the course of however many days or weeks, time is unfathomable in a K-drama, so I have no clue how much time has passed. But we see that HyunYi is making dishes and having Yi-Seo try them and kind of like, oh, is it better? And so she's getting a little bit better, but not, not anything like earth-shattering. And then we sort of see her continuing like, oh, I'll make it again. I'll make it again. I'll make that again. So she's like remaking a lot of the dishes and making improvements and sort of doing all this different stuff. And then we get to a final scene, and this looks like one of their signature dishes, just the way that it was presented. It looked fairly fancy, but maybe it wasn't. I don't know. She presents it to Yi-Seo, and you can see Sungkwan and Gonso kind of like off in the back, kind of like, oh, okay, like we've been at this for a while. Like, are we gonna get there? Yi-Seo takes a bite, or takes, I guess, a sip of the broth that HyunYi has made. She kind of was like, oh. And HyunYi is like, oh, I'll make it again. I can do better. I can work harder. I'm sorry. Like, just give me another chance. And Yi-Seo is like, oh, it's actually really good. Like, she's like so defeated to have to admit that it tastes good, that it's actually like kind of funny. And so she says, you did it. You did it. It's actually really good. So congratulations. She even says to her, your hair at the club when it was black was actually really pretty. So just keep that in mind. And then she calls her 언니, which is the term that women use to refer to like their older sister or like an older female friend. And so it was sort of nice to see her kind of come around, although I felt like she came around a little bit too quickly for it to be like authentic. But again, who knows how much time has actually passed since her first tantrum and like this new Yi-Seo. But at any rate, it was kind of like, okay, so we at least aren't misgendering HyunYi anymore and we're moving forward, so great. At the end of one of the work days, Yi-Seo is on her way home. And two girls from her high school, Boki, I don't know how to say her name. She's like waiting, and like they're like a smooth 20 years old at this point. I guess she's there to like teach Yi-Seo a lesson. I don't pretend to understand bullying culture in Korea, but like y'all are grown-ass women, so at this point it doesn't make any sense. So I am highly confused about what she's even doing there. But joke's on her, because Yi-Seo is not, well, she doesn't really follow social conventions. And so Bogi, something, she gets in her face and basically is like, you ruined my life, like got me expelled. And so that's why I decided to call the police when you were underage drinking at that place. Gonso, who had like popped up and was like trying to defend Yi-Seo, sir, she does not need your help. If anything, you should probably get behind her, but that's whatever. Patriarchy being what it is, he needed to feel like he was protecting his woman. Yi-Seo basically steps around him and she's like, I'm sorry, did you just say that you called the police? You're the reason why my boss had his club shut down? I guess they're just not gonna take responsibility for the fact that they snuck into a place and pretended to be of age, and in fact, they are the reason that the club got... Yes, they called the police, but they couldn't have called the police if you weren't there, so... She, being madly in love with Saeroyi, was like, well, now you gotta pay. So she basically slaps the mess out of this girl. And then, to make matters even worse, is like, oh, didn't you know? I slapped your mom the same way. And I was like, whoa. the way I cackled, it was so petty, but also I remember that episode and I remember that slap and I was like, that was her mom? Somehow did not put together that they were like related. You need to stop messing with this girl. I would not have even tried to come for her, but that's just me. That's just me. This girl does not clearly have any common sense, and so she continued to get slapped and slapped and slapped. She's my favorite. Like I said, I was worried because I can't stand anyone who is transphobic. So I was like, this whole episode just kind of like pearl clutching because I'm like, okay, who else do I have besides Saeroyi? Well, and of course Sungkwan, but I mean, that's because they're attractive. Who can I like root for besides like our main character who everybody is rooting for? It's been Yi-Seo the whole time, because Soo Ah, no. But she redeemed herself. Ah, the end of the episode. So Soo Ah, everybody's fave, is drinking because, oh, her life is so hard. Oh, like the chairman is putting so much pressure on her. So she's drinking, she goes wandering home because, you know, she is a victim, runs into Saeroyi and Yi-Seo, and basically is like, I'm such a horrible person. Oh, why do you like me? Blah, 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 whatever. And so she like decides that despite the fact that she's a horrible person and her allegiances lie with Janga Corporation, somehow now's a great time to kiss Saeroyi because she knows that he likes her and she's a terrible person. Did I say she was a terrible person? Because she's a terrible person. And so she like, you know, kind of puts on her little moon eyes and like closes them and starts leaning in, try to give Saeroyi a kiss. And Yi-Seo was like, "Roar!" And then the episode ended. So good. So good. This episode gets a 5 Jin out of 5. It had everything. It had drama, it had a little bit of romance, it had the reveal of a transgender character, it had the successful opening of our wonderful Danbam pub. Really couldn't ask for more. I think the tension that they introduced where we had our characters sort of like not being very accepting of the trans character was very uncomfortable, especially because we've gotten to know these people over the last couple of episodes and really like them. And I think having that sort of realization that like they're not that inclusive and they're not that welcoming despite their background was kind of like, whoa, what are we doing? But I was happy to see how they resolved it. Hopefully there will be more details in the future, but pretty okay with how everything ended up. I am looking forward to finding out what happens in episode 6. Now that everyone knows that HyunYi is trans, like where's that storyline going? I saw in the preview that our black character is showing up, so I'm interested to see like where that goes, how he gets introduced. Let me know in the comments below if there are phrases that you caught from the episode that you were really excited to be able to understand. Are you even learning Korean? Do you have any interest in learning Korean if you're not? And I will see you next time. Bye!